Cloudways Mavericks Hangout. Shall we call it that? I don't know. I was trying to think of a really crazy cool name. We are here with Mr. Vito Peleg from WP Feedback with one of the most awesome posters in the background I think I've seen for a long time, and a Marshall amp that goes to 13. Is that right?
Yeah, at least 13. It starts at 13.
It starts at 13. And if you've never seen Spinal Tap, I highly recommend. And no, that's not Vito. Uncanny, though, don't you think?
Do you guys, when you watch next time that you have the BBC iPlayer, have a look at the volume at the BBC iPlayer, see where it goes to.
It really
fabulous.
does.
It's the best thing. It does go to
awesome.
11. Yeah, it is.
Folks, we're going to be talking about mastering client communication through efficient feedback collection, and Vito is the right person to talk about that because he has developed the product with his team at WP Feedback. You can check that over on wfeedback.co. But before we dive into grilling Vito with some questions, because we want to unpack some of his journey, he's had an agency, he's learned so much, he's got so much value and great advice that he can offer us. Let's do the rounds with a little bit of a bio of each person. So if we start with our honored guest, Vito, a quick 30-second intro, and then we'll work our way around, and we'll finish with Peacher because she's going to ask you our first question. So go for it, Vito.
Okay, so I'm Vito. I started building websites from a van when I was touring a band back in the day. From there, I grew through freelancer agency that kind of like did that journey for a few years. Grew pretty fast, got to 12 guys on my team. That's where client communications really became a massive, massive pain for us, which is when we developed WP Feedback as a way of solving or scratching our own itch. And the rest is history. Today, we're celebrating 1 year since the launch of WP Feedback. This is our 1 year anniversary.
Wow.
A round of applause there.
Amazing. Amazing.
Then
yes.
we have Jan. Give us your intro.
I'm Jan.
Expressive dance.
I'm a WordPress developer from Germany, and I'm usually in these Cloudways webinars the guy talking about the tech stuff. And besides that, I run virtual summits. Right now, the Ecom Services Summit, and Vito and I have done a summit together in April as well.
Awesome. I am Lee. I am the podcast host of the Agency Trailblazer podcast, and you'll obviously see me on these live streams as well. And I'll now hand over to Peacher for your intro and your kickoff question.
I am Peacher Neri. I am Italian, but I live in Spain now after many years in London. And I am a designer, and I talk about user experience and do user experience a lot. And you can find me also on these very frequent Cloudways webinars that we love so much. So, yes. And in fact, I met Vito last year. I can't believe it was just a year ago. It feels like it was much longer in a way. And we were both wandering the car park of the station in Wellingborough, desperately trying to find a taxi to get us to Lee's events venue. And little did we know how the story would unfold and how quickly. And in fact, at that great event, Agency Transformation Live, which was actually a real life event last year. And this year, can people still get access to your...
Nope, it was ticket holders only. Not to my one, but they can to Vito's, I believe.
You missed it. But anyway, it's a great event for any agency owners and also small freelance people. And that's where I first heard of Vito's product. And it was really interesting how, for me, it was interesting from so many points of view, because feedback, I started as an editor, really, and the feedback from clients was an absolute nightmare. It was incredible. You would get trying to get the edits to the copy of a book was incredibly hard to keep together, and you'd get them like a million times, and by the 12th round of proofs you would be going, how did you not see it the first time? So having and obviously that's also down to making sure that you have communications, that you have a relationship, that you set the boundaries, is what I'm trying to say, with your client, so that it never gets to 12 rounds of proofs. And I think that we all learn that. But I feel that your product really addresses the issue so well, so much so that we were talking how it would be great if it wasn't just for WordPress, but just in general, just a tool to use. And I was always fascinated by the how you got the idea and how you actually turned it into a product, because I've interviewed Vito before from the point of view of the user experience of his product, because basically that's what it is. You saw a problem, which was communications, and then you started thinking about the best way to solve it, but you saw one problem. That was what I found great, because it's not that you went, okay, there's a problem, there's 12 runs of proofs. That's not the problem. The problem is communication.
True.
So I guess my very long-winded question is, how did you get to identifying the problem? Because I reckon that's the difficult bit, deciding which is the one fundamental problem to solve, which is kind of the core of UX, but that's identifying the problem, having the lucidity to actually realize it's just one thing, and from that everything comes. So that's my very long-winded question.
Actually, it's an interesting story around this, because I discovered this not looking for this. So what I was looking for is, where does the profit go? That was the question that I kept asking when we were running the agency towards the end of it, and client communications just consumed so much of the profit. But there were a few ways to this. Like, first of all, the ongoing communications, which is just like every time one of my guys started a support ticket, it started with, what's next? It pushed it right back to the client with a question. It never was, let's start working. It was like, okay, but what page are you talking about? Or which button? We have 40,000 buttons on the website. Or what product? Or what do you mean by this word? And then you realize they're talking about a menu item when they said something completely different. So all of this kind of miscommunication just created a bunch of frustrations with my team. And that's one thing that I realized. So it was reducing productivity, creating what I like to call developed traffic, which instead of a process going from A to B, it just starts spiraling around before it gets to its designation. So that's all of this back and forth. That's like just draining energy from the team, and that in turn drains profits, because everyone is less productive. Things take longer, and the agency model is, as it is, very slim profit kind of model. So every minute counts, right? Because you're basically, it's all about the man hours with this model. And that was another thing. But also from the point of view of projects that were starting and not ending, that was like, that doesn't happen often, but when it does, it's like it's a nightmare. You keep chasing these clients, and we had one client that we were just chasing her for a year to just send us the about page. Just send me the content.
That's quite fast turnaround, mate. A year.
Yeah,
that's pretty good turnaround. Just saying.
They should talk about
those are the worst.
Yeah,
those are the absolute worst.
We had, I think I told you this story, Peter, when we had this one client that literally sent us all of the content. After chasing him again and again, he sent us the content written down in an envelope, mailed to my office, with the logos printed on the pages as well. Like, here you go, this is now build a website. And it just made no sense, and every person was trying to pull you in a different direction in terms of, let's use this tool, let's use my system, let's use that system, and so on. And that started because there was no system. So when you're not the alpha of your relationship, you're gonna become the beta. The client will become the alpha, and he will steer the ship and get the project to go to where they want it to be, instead of you laying down the law and working them through set steps of delivering it. So anyway, that was the focus of it. You asked a long question and you got a long answer. But that's the gist of it. Basically, just trying to figure out where does the profit go, and it always comes down to client communications and misalignment in reality.
Can I jump in on that then? So where does the profit go? What did you do? Yes, so I get the client communications, but how did you work that out? Was
Right.
that did you have to go ahead and start timing every single activity to figure that out?
So like in that time, nowadays I don't do that much, but during that time I was very much like about the minutes. So everything was tracked. So I just looked into our resources and saw what's happening. Whenever there was something that I knew how long things take, because I started as I did the journey. I was a freelancer then so I did the work. I know how long it takes. So when I saw aberrations in the completion time of different tasks, I just asked the team, what happened here, what happened there, and every time it was like, yeah, the client was there, yeah, it was like this, yeah, I told him to do this, but eventually that's what happened, and so all of this just breakage, it just kept coming back again and again and again and again. And when once we built this, and it was just something for me to solve, like I said, just to do something inside the agency. Once it was running very scrappily with a few clients, it just stopped. It was just like magic. It just completely stopped. And that's when I was like, all right, let's see if it's only in my business or if it's just like a problem that is bigger than that. And apparently it was.
And then, so again, for client communications, and other guys, feel free to interrupt me, but I will grill Vito if you let me. So on the client communication side, obviously things go far beyond just, can you move that to the left and can you make the logo bigger? What were the key sorts of client communication issues? You did mention obviously just chasing someone for an about page, which is one sort of client communication. But and Peter mentioned earlier multiple revisions. I mean, that's a trap that so many people fall into. So was it the multiple revision trap that was the key area of client communications, or what about things like the project scope and all of the stuff that happens even before we get to the feedback part?
Right. There's 3 points to it. Like the three main breakpoints in any project is gathering the content, approving the design, and providing the support properly. Each one has its own difficulties and has its own problems, but they all come from the same source, so which is just creating the system that both sides just enjoy using. And with gathering content, it's just a mess. Like you work on a Word document and there is no visual representation to what you're trying to achieve when you're writing a piece of copy. It's not a blog post. Some things should be like 3 words, some things should be 2 paragraphs, some things should be matching in terms of the length. If you have those icons, like the featured icons like people usually do, there is order to it. So using it not in a visual way is insane. That's from the content point of view. From the revision point of view, you're right, Picha. When people get when you offer a finger, a lot of people will just try to grab the entire hand. And most cases, what I found is that it's because they're just not aware of the amount of work that's been done. It just seems like in their world, in their reality, the amount of value that they expect to receive from the other side is just mismatched with what is actually should be delivered. So a way to solve this is actually to over communicate what you're doing, and that the tool is actually doing this perfectly, because it tells you when you're starting this, when the developer starts, when it's pending review, when there is a kind of a change in there. You see in real time all the stuff that was ever done. So just seeing that you got to task 150 in email, you never see that. But when every task could be just like change this title and make this bold and do this. So it could be like small bits and pieces. Sometimes you get to 150 tiny changes on a big website, and that's visible. It's never visible when you're doing this in any other way, basically. So that was in terms of for revisions. That stops scope creeps from the get-go, because you can just tell them and say, man, we've done 70 tasks already. Let's chill out, and then from the maintenance point of view, it's actually maintaining the relationship long term by showing value all the time. And that is something that a lot of care plan people that have care plans just miss. You do the once a month kind of report. if anything, and that's it. That's where it starts and that's where it ends. But just giving them the power to click something and ask a question, or you can tell them or point out, listen, WordPress 5.0 is released. Here is a little intro to Guttenberg. Like the cool thing is that we don't even need to do the work. WordPress and thousands of other developers are doing the work for us, enhancing the value of the product that we created for our customers. And we just need to point it out. Like, WooCommerce just delivered a brand new dashboard for managing your sales. Check it out. So these things is just amazing to do it like that, and just keep them in the loop, making sure that they understand the value that they got.
You know what, Vito? This question is actually could be good at the end, but I'm asking it now because it has come now. We a few weeks ago we had Kim Doyle here, who you probably know. She's a friend of a lot of us. But basically, Kim is all about content, but she did used to make websites and have clients, and her life changed because she created a product, and now she's selling that product, and she loves that, and she loved that pivot that her life did as a consequence. And when I met you, you'd had this idea of doing this, but I don't think you imagined that you would close your agency so soon after actually starting the product. So I think that a lot of us who have or have had website clients, that is to say, actually not industry people, not peers, because now you have clients, but they are your peers. There are people, they are other design agencies, rather than being clients who want,
small business owners, basically.
Small business owners, basically. So I am, I just wonder whether this is a dream life, because many of us think, oh my God, my life would be, I'm sorry, clients out there. If clients are listening, we do love you, but it's also really nice to have a product instead. I don't believe for a second that you work less. Probably you work more, but would you prefer, is your life better? Do you think that is this better?
For me, I was doing projects for years. We built like almost 500 websites through the agency, and it just became this like a groundhog day. Every day is the same. Every project is kind of the same. Fine, you have an about page and a services page and whatever, and you just don't get, like, I felt, that I was not getting anywhere, because every time you just deliver a project, we all know that a website is never ends when you launch it, right? It just starts when you launch it. But in most cases, you don't get to keep working on it for long term. Even if you do, you don't have the time, or it's like you get 3 hours a month or so. So you just do what's needed. You don't get to really expand on it. And after so many websites, it just felt like, we're doing the same thing again and again and again. And that I didn't like. It was just draining me, my energy. The nice thing now is that whatever we do today is being added to what we did yesterday, and it's being added to what we did the day before. So it's like you're building this momentum instead of just churning out, websites.
Do you feel that?
Okay. Yeah, I'll jump in after.
It's me. I'm not. So do you feel that it's easier, though, to have an audience of peers as your clients, rather than, because they understand the language, they understand the industry, and what they're trying to do for you? I personally, I find it so much better whenever I'm selling to my peers rather than clients.
There's no doubt about that, and our tool is a professional tool. So we're working with professionals that are in the space. They are us, they are us a year ago. So
exactly.
that makes it super easy to communicate there, even though there are still communication breakdowns. I see it on the support all the time, and we need to deal with that. People are people at the end of the day. Some are easier, some are harder. Sometimes you can let yourself be more friendly, and sometimes you got to be a little more strict. It's kind of like, I like to think of this when, if you go to your if you talk to your mom, it's going to be a different person than the guy talking to the bank manager, right? You just put on a different mask and kind of a bit of a different persona to communicate your message to your audience. So that changes in an audience point of view, like if it's someone that is tech savvy or not, like you're saying, Picha. But it also changes from one person to another. Over time, we get to know our users, and some of them are a little more difficult than others, and they need a little more help. So the communication problems are still there, even for us. But it makes it definitely being aware of all of the stuff that I've gone through to learn how to build this tool is definitely makes it a whole lot easier over there. One thing that I wish I had now is WP feedback, because we're back in the stuff now that we have a product. We're back in the same place where the first message that goes out is, can you send me login details, instead of us knowing what the other side knows. So maybe the next thing is doing the same thing for product makers.
So I'd love to pick up on something you said, because you pointed out that agency life for you was stressful, repetitive, and Groundhog Day. And you can now imagine that there are an awful lot of web developers and designers listening to you saying that, going, oh, great. Because it's not really selling the dream. So how would WP feedback enable web agencies to actually be able to enjoy their business? But also, how do you, as a product provider, stay in touch if you've closed your own agency while servicing the agency community?
Great. So from the first of all, sorry, I forgot the first question.
It's all right. It's in front of you. Agency life was stressful and repetitive.
So like it's true, it became stressful and repetitive after doing it for a few years, and but at first it was super exciting. I enjoyed the part of being creative and building of doing new websites all the time. And I think that as I went deeper into what I want to do, it just kind of felt like more of a personal thing around that. That's what around the repetitive. At first, it's nice because you design stuff, new stuff all the time, but after a while, just like anything else in life, I guess. When it comes to the stressful bit of it, that's where we come in, because all of these messages, I can give you a very good example of something that happened in the agency. We had this customer, it's like a WooCommerce shop that had like 6,000 products on it. And then one day we got a message into our support desk saying, the add to cart button is not there, I'm losing sales. That's it. That's the only message. So obviously we all freak out and like, oh my God, this is a big client. Let's try and fix this for him. And we go to the website, we start looking around, and the add to cart button is there wherever we look. We all pull out our phones and we look at, and you open the iPad and you try to figure out what is he seeing that we're not seeing. After an hour, we just come back to him and he's pinging again. And it's like, but you send him the screenshot. It's like, we can see it everywhere. And he's like, but I don't see it. I don't see that to cart, and I might be losing sales. Please fix it. And I can imagine that he was sending this from his phone while he was running around in his shop, trying to sell to people in the real world, So he's doing it on the go, and we're just adding to his stress, and he's adding to our stress. Eventually, what it was is that the one product, or by default, when a product runs out of stock, the add to cart button disappears, and that's what he saw. But we had no idea, and there was so many products until we just got to that page. All of this mess is just gone. He would have, on his phone, clicked on what he sees, tap it, and we got that message with a screenshot, automated screenshot, telling us that he was on his phone using this browser. You click the button, it takes you to where it is. You see there is no button. You edit the product. Done.
That's amazing.
So these are the kind of things that we all face more than once and twice a day, every day when you're working at scale. And we just remove that.
Yeah. Awesome. And was there any kind of fear from you, like closing your agency and going, right, I'm going all in on this product now? And also, how did you transition? I imagine there are clients who are like, you're there 1 minute and then you're gone. So how do you transition that without leaving people feeling abandoned?
So it took a while until we got to a point where, first I dropped all the clients that I didn't really want. The clients, the 20% that take 80% of your time.
Firing clients,
Yeah.
firing that kind of clients is, yes, it's.
And it was fun to fire, you know, as harsh it may seem to say, but it was fun to just release so that you can accept new stuff. That happened very early on. So on literally a few months after a few weeks after we started this product, and we saw where this is going, and I was like, all right, this guy, no more. You know, that's the last month. We did keep a bunch of clients for longer, just to, like you're saying, Lee, to keep using the tool and keep experimenting with this. So we just stopped doing any new projects and just kept some clients that we knew that we had like a good relationship with, and it was nice to work with. We still have, so for example, the e-com shop that I was telling you about, we still have Charles as a client, and we're still
Charles.
He wished.
That'd be all right, wouldn't it? The Duchy of Cambridge, whatever it was, Duchy.
I wish, right?
Yeah.
So we still have like I think 5 or 6 clients that are with us, that we do like care plans for.
Yeah.
No new stuff, and the only reason is, like you're saying, Lee, to just stay in touch and use the tool.
Yeah. So they're kind of like your that helps you as well. So you're still helping them, you're still keeping in touch, but at the same time, you're also getting the benefit of that kind of product research, as it were, and you're getting some real direct. You're using it as a client, making sure you're then understanding how other people are using it. That's good. Peter, I think you'd pasted that there was a question in from one of the other people on the live stream.
We got a nice question in from Clayton Winter. And he's asking, how do you deal with clients that change their mind about the direction of the website? So let's say they want to change the overall message on the website. And I would assume that's something that you have to confront in the onboarding already before you even start working on the website.
Yeah.
But I'm super excited to hear what you think.
Right. So I agree. This is something that you need to confront in the onboarding process, but it happens. Sometimes people change their mind. We do that all the time ourselves. And so we have to account for it. What we did is we just had a process where we were taking the client through these steps until they got to this point. So, for example, you do the onboarding where you ask these questions, and then we built the prototype based on that. And the prototype was just like a very rough boned kind of a version in the browser inside the page builder. That's when the client got that to see the kind of layout. He saw all the lorem ipsums. That's where we gathered the content. So by that point, there is no design. We didn't do much at all. That's when he can see the layout in terms of how the design will be on the page itself. But that's where they decide the messaging. Once we're done with this step and we went on to the design step, that stage is over. And because there was a defined step, if they change their mind later on, you can refer back and say, look, we did a full step around this just to make sure that whatever we're doing after makes sense. So if we want to change the message, we got to go back to that stage. So therefore, the budget will change.
That's such a great way to fight scope creep, which for small agencies is such a drain, isn't it?
Yeah.
Jan, I mean,
because we're looking at things.
Insane, yeah.
For us, things are not abstract. When we look at a piece of code, we see what it means, but we think of a function, we know what it means. But when a client looks at it, he has no idea. There is no visual representation in their mind into what we are doing. What makes them tick is steps. Like that's something that they can recognize from other aspects of their life. If there is a process and it has the step, and we're in step 6, after we finished this one in step 4 or 2, then we need to go back. It's like a game.
Yeah, and I guess that because it's, as you say, it's difficult for them, I think, to visualize what it is that we actually do. And it would be like if you order a cake and then go back and say, no, actually, you know what? I didn't want it. You order a chocolate cake and then you go back and you eat half of it and you go, yeah, I just want a strawberry cake now. You could have it, but you would accept that.
You gotta buy.
It has to be a new cake. Sorry, maybe it's because I'm Yeah, sorry, it's a bad example.
You're craving cake.
I like cake.
Well, it's just that as a business, we are vulnerable to that, to clients, as Clayton says, that suddenly just change their mind and they think it's fine, and it's not. And it's so great that I think that this WP feedback can really help with scope creep and with unreasonable requests like that, which I think it's brilliant.
Yeah. The 6-step process is defined in the proposal. This is how we help the clients to understand what they're gonna go through when we're going through this when we're delivering. So like the steps were laid out even before anything happened. You know, they saw this from the get-go. So just telling them, we went back to step number 2. That's it. You know, it explains everything.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And that's such an important takeaway that I just want to re-emphasize to everybody who's watching this. Clayton, if you don't have that process in place, and if you don't have these very clearly defined sections of the project in place, then you're setting yourself up for trouble.
Yes, for sure.
Absolutely.
And we've all been there. You know, it's written in blood.
Oh yes, it's definitely written in blood.
I've hemorrhaged money on projects doing that.
Yeah, I think we all have.
Shall we all have a cry? It feels appropriate.
Let's no, we look forward, we never look back. So there's a great question from Matt Davies, which I find particularly relevant. So Matt is asking, given the so basically, do you fear that because you now have a product and you don't work with clients directly anymore, do you fear that you lose touch with that aspect? And I'm saying that I feel it's relevant to me because I started talking about UX and sort of educating people about UX, and then I feel like, well, I need to do UX projects myself. Otherwise, how can I? Do you know what I mean? So I think it's a really good question.
Yeah.
I think that you've probably suffered enough that you don't feel like you're going to lose touch. But would you keep a project on the side just to feel that you still, or is the feedback that you get from your WP feedback clients enough to keep you?
Right.
Well, I think I caveat that with new clients because you said you're keeping existing clients.
Yeah.
But I guess Matt's comment was probably more based on the fact that if you keep existing, that's all well and good. But the changing tech, WordPress is evolving. Obviously, that's true. But equally, in agency life in general, there are so many new solutions and great AppSumo deals that that things change. And I felt the same when, I did less and less agency work and I was running agency Trailblazer. I was like, oh, my word, am I now a fraud?
Right.
Anyway,
so like the way that, first of all, I did it for a few years, so it's still I still have all the information of what happened back then. But it's true that this industry moves very fast. Yeah. I think that the cool thing now is that instead of having just one agency to look into, my own, now we have more than 9,000. So that's like we just listen to them
9,
more than anything else.
Oh my gosh! Is your communication?
Website.
That must be crazy.
So now we're just opening our eyes and listening to what they have to say. More than that, and this is actually a new experience from what is happening just this week, as we're kind of expanding the team a little more. We're bringing in freelancers that build websites just now. So they are, and I think that this process will always be there. You're bringing people from one side to, we're bringing them to the dark side, right? Every time.
Are you Darth Vader? Or are you the Emperor?
Do you have cookies on the dark side?
So that's how we kind of keep in touch, but mostly it's just the client that's our users that just we see what's happening with them and how they interact with their customers.
Another follow-up question though in there, mate, is because you've said 9,000 clients, obviously they're not all communicating with you at the same time, but I can instantly think of many agencies who've priced themselves too low and thus have many clients, which is obviously one of the client communication problems. So how do you guys manage kind of support communication? Because even if, I don't know, 5 or 2% of 9,000 are communicating with you on a weekly basis with questions or support requests, how do you manage? Oh,
So,
I think my clients. Okay, but I
So,
imagine
like,
still you're
yeah,
probably
it's
still getting more messages now than you probably ever were in an agency because you
For
have a
sure.
significant number of product users. So, what's your process for managing that communication that people can learn from and apply to their agencies?
Right. So there we kind of went. So like I said before, we kind of went back to our old ways. We're using a support desk to manage the communications for this, because there is no other tool. I wish there was a WP feedback for product makers, but there is nothing like that. So we're just using the same structure of asking for logins and all of that. It just happens at scale. One of the cool things that we started doing recently is realizing that because there are so many tickets that are coming in every week, some are gonna get lost, and that didn't happen when you have like 40, 50 clients. You know that or maybe it does, but it's not as as you scale everything, every problem is being magnified by 10. So this thing, which used to be like one a ticket in a while, where you send back a message saying, "Oh, sorry, I must have missed that message," and pick it back up, now could happen with a few clients and multiple support people that are working on that. So we started doing weekly roundups where Sheila, my VA, just goes through the entire support desk, like digging. She's like digging for gold, trying to find every single ticket that could be left outside to make sure that everyone is being replied to. And we do these sessions every Friday where I just go through with them through whatever tickets that are on this list, and I give them the answers, so everything just keeps moving smoothly. From there, we're creating what's it called, those canned responses, as many canned responses as possible, so that you can pull things up and answer quickly. It's a process, learning how to manage the support like that is a process. One resource that really helped us is I gotta give credit to GiveWP. If you guys heard of this product, they do like they have the biggest form, like a donation collection form. I think that's how you define it.
Big shout out to Michelle. She's done a great job on increasing customer or keeping customers, essentially. So just as an aside and to value Michelle, she's increased the revenue by 21% in Q1 2020 by fighting customer churn. That's
Amazing.
insane.
Amazing. And yeah, I had a talk with Michelle during the summit. Actually, she jumped into the networking lounge, and I have like 4 pages in my notebook of like what they did to get that going. But the cool thing is that they open sourced their entire support manual. So maybe I can even share this here.
There should be a share screen option if that's what you mean.
No, I'll just share the link for this support manual by Give, which is amazing, and it gives you like a process. And they just open sourced it for everyone to use. They're happy to share the knowledge, and I'm happy to help spread the word around this. So we use this as a framework for our support as a whole, basically. And just adapting it to what we need for us, with our tools and so on. They use Slack, we use Teamwork, and stuff like that. But it's really awesome. One thing that really stuck out for me there was the fact that you don't jump directly into support. So once you have dedicated support people, it's overwhelming to see so many tickets all the time, just like churning out emails all day long. So they gave this some place in your daily routine that you can you have like the mental kickoff that you learn a little bit and you kind of expand on your knowledge, and then during the end of the day you can actually do some stuff to advance development, fix knowledge base items, documentation, and all of that kind of stuff, instead of just being bombarded with clients all day long, which can be very hard.
Yeah. There's a great question in here from Darius, and I guess we'll put this in the context of your experience in agency life back in the day.
Sure.
What platform would you use or recommend that we communicate with clients throughout the project? Because obviously email is not fast and helpful. Yeah. I'm aware that WP Feedback has the ability for the client to put tasks in based on what they visually see, and you can process those, but it's obviously not a project management system. So would you recommend, number one, any particular project management systems for an agency? And number two, any resources for learning better project management as well?
Right. Resources for learning project management, I would have to recommend Beth's course.
Yep.
She's
So
starting
BP
to run
roadmaps.
Yes, that would be roadmaps, as well as Troy Dean's framework that I've been to the WP Elevation, which was a huge help for me in terms of learning how to run a project properly. And that's in terms of learning, and I want to encourage everyone to learn and to find knowledge wherever you can, and just invest in yourself, because every investment like this just creates a massive return back if you implement properly. In terms of the tool, I think you haven't seen our tool in a while, so I can show you like a short process of managing a
project.
Managing a project start to finish.
Fire it up, hit the share screen. Let's have a nosy poke. I'll just add your screen to the. Yes, I've not seen your product in a while, so it'd be great.
Let me get to here one as well.
I'll just sing whilst we wait. Any requests? Any requests, folks?
How do I share my screen?
If you hit share screen bottom there, and then I can add it. There we go.
While Vito's looking for his story, okay, I'll shut up.
Okay, so basically this is the standard website. Let's say this is the client's website, and like we said, we can click this plus icon and leave a message wherever it needs to be. That's
where's the video gone?
Oh, video's gone?
Yeah, I was saying, where's the video? That's what I'd say. No, on your page.
On the website.
It's a dad joke, mate. Come on.
Right.
Keep going.
It's a dad joke. It's one of Lee's dad jokes.
Soon, Vito.
Now I got it. Okay, so this is like the basic use case, right? But we have our general task where people can create tasks, and we can see people saying like, can you please send me the invoices from the past 3 months? Right? Just like the most generic question there is. And then from here, basically everything goes to your dashboard. So if I'm going to open this guy up, I can see all of the tasks here, and I can manage all of the project from one place. So I can see all of the open tasks and the pending review, as well as look at it based on urgency. Clicking
the
through,
old Kanban sort of styley.
Exactly. Clicking through gives you this kind of experience where you can reply back and say sure and all of that kind of stuff. Leave notes if you want to communicate internally with your team. This is a note. Lee, you gotta fire this client, right? You don't want them to see that.
Oh, you're going to get me to fire the client. Gee, thanks, mate. Give me all the rubbish jobs.
So we have this kind of like environment in here where you can manage your entire project from one place. The cool thing is that, especially when you're building it in WordPress, the three big parts of a project, like we said, is gathering the content, approving the design, and providing the support. These are the three steps to a successful project in there, and it just works with you, because if you have the prototype in here, you get the content directly into each one of these stuff. What should be the title? What should be the description here? What should be the main call to action? When you're approving the design, everything happens again from this place, and it's all just managed here per project, which is per website. Now I'm looking at this. I'm looking at our little staging environment. Let me open my live thing so you can see like a full-on thing in there.
You sound like you got a mechanical keyboard.
Yes, I enjoy it very much.
Great noise.
Right, so let's go to what we did just now. This is this website, and you can see, can you send me the invoices from the past 3 months? And I'll just tag Jerome, this is for you. And tag the relevant person in my team that needs to work on this. Whereas Jerome is already tagged, perfect, add note. Yeah, so the whole conversation happens from very much like an email flow, just per website, where you jump between the different websites. But then if you want to get an overview of a project, like a project management tool, that's where the Kanban comes into view, and you can just get a snapshot. This is what needs doing. This is what's happening right now. This is what it needs checking, QA before delivery, and this is what's done. And as you do the task, you just pass them on from one step to another.
This so useful. I tell you, there's another question from Clayton, which brings up something that I find a really interesting point of view, because we kind of assume that all of us are either freelancers working with small clients or or an agency, but in fact there are some of us that are internal. They work within a company. And Clayton is saying that he works for a company that has 4 different brands and different websites for all of them. So
Perfect.
Contracts don't apply to him, but he's just trying to find a way to explain to his internal clients why he can't get everything done that they're asking for. And this really brings me back to the time when I was working at the British Film Institute many years ago, and I hadn't heard of Basecamp yet, and it was an absolute nightmare. I was managing the design department, and so I had to bring in a centralized system that actually made it much better, and then they could actually see why we couldn't get everything done that they asked for, but it was really painful to get them to understand that. So how do you think you can help Clayton?
So first of all, we can help a lot, guys, like Clayton, because
I feel just by looking at the screen that you showed, it's just that's theirs right there.
It's there. It's just done. So like if I'm gonna go back and we can see stuff from the entire network of websites. So what I would do as Clayton, is my screen still on? No, need to reshare it. Let me click here. Yeah, can you guys see it? Oh, I think I lost the sound. Yeah.
We were all just muted so that we don't interrupt you.
We were all in awe. Keep going.
So for Clayton, for example, you just install this on all of those websites, and you have a snapshot of all of them in here. If you want to show them, listen, guys, I'm freaking busy. You just click on tasks from all sites and show them, listen, this is all that is still pending. I'm working on it, but it takes time, and I'm going to move things to complete it as I'm working on it. So just by it's all about the visual representation. The whole tool is endorsing visual feedback and visual collaboration in a completely different level than ever before, because it just shows you everything instead of telling you or talk about it or think about it. So for Clayton, this is the perfect place for you. Internal communications with them. They can leave comments on the website if they have stuff. For example, we had a client that had. Even here, I think if I'm going to scroll down, I can see a bunch of these guys, if we haven't cleaned them up yet already. Yeah, we did. So we had like a client that had 7 websites, and we just managed the whole thing from here. It's all cleaned out already.
I feel that this would be such a great way of helping, because often let's call them clients, even if it's internal to the company, they just don't know, they don't visualize it, so they don't realize that they're actually putting you in an almost impossible situation. And I think that something like this helps them actually see it with their own eyes, that you have a lot of things to do, and it's quite easy for you to prioritize and decide what goes first. So
this is actually something that a lot of big companies that are providing support on a large scale are very much preaching for. Show people your tickets, because then they see the volume of work that you've done for them, and it will just discourage them from bothering you with nonsense, because they see that you're busy. I still have all of this to work on.
Yeah. Right. So we've got another fun question from Matt Davies. So, which is a very good question. As usual, he's asking, where does Vito see WP feedback in a year's time? What would be the dream goal that you'd love to hit? Right.
So like, there's some secrets that I can't reveal all the way, but we're basically continuing to build around the WordPress freelancer and agency workflow. So we're the only tool that is, and some people were talking about why just WordPress, and this is why, because by focusing in, we can create things that no one can, like creating stuff like the process of when you click on a task, you logged in the website where the task is. When a file is uploaded, it goes directly into your media folder, so you don't need to download and re-upload it and do all of this kind of nonsense back and forth. So by being focused on WordPress, we can do all of this kind of stuff. One of the cool things that is in progress at the moment is the visual site mapping tool that allows you to map your entire architecture of the website before it actually being launched. Before you actually start building anything, you approve the architecture with the client like an architect does. It doesn't start building walls before the blueprints are approved. And so you have this kind of layout of there. Once the client sees that, you can communicate and do all of these kind of, we don't need so many team members, or we do need 5 more team members, and so on, these kind of stuff. Then one button, boom, all the pages are generated on your website. All the menus are generated on your website. So again, as opposed to now where we all know the right click on add new 15 times, right? That opens the entire browser with new pages that you're trying to bulk create stuff. So all of this is going to be gone, and we're just going to keep doing stuff like that, looking into the different touch points where WordPress professionals communicate with their clients and build the tools to accommodate that stage.
There's another really cool question, actually. So will you be focusing just on WP feedback, or do you think that, are you considering adding other products? Is this like the product for you, or can you see little, siblings for it?
Right. So if you would have asked me like 6 months ago, I would have said no. I would have said that we're going to put all of our eggs in one basket. But then Corona hit, and then you realize that the diversification is important, even though it can ruin focus. So for the first year, it was, let's do just this. But looking into the future and trying to create, and as the company grows, and it's not only, and there's other people's livelihood at stake, which the past few months have proved more than anything that I've done since I was in business for the past 15 years. It's something that creating another product that serves a different target audience is actually pretty smart. But this is a matter of stage. So like, I don't want to say this and have people starting 3 different niches at the same time. You gotta see something through. You gotta make sure that it's working, it's up and running, the system's in place to take over, and then you can refocus on another thing, build that up. And if you want, you can repeat that process a few different times. But that's the thing. That being said, the company is at a place where if anything like this happens, we bring new people to do that, so we don't hurt the product, we don't hurt the team that is working on what we're doing right now. So there are like the roadmap for WP Feedback Pro is 4 years long already, but this year we're also gonna start exploring a few opportunities that presented themselves to us during the past few months.
Interesting.
So sorry, I had a sneeze. I had to. Yeah, sorry. There's nothing. It's live, guys. It's live.
And we are all human. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Of course. Yeah, I wish we could go on with this conversation, because I think there are many more things that we can talk about when it comes to avoiding issues in client communication. Right. And I think we've barely touched like the tip of the iceberg, but even that was, I think, helpful to many people watching this, and hopefully at least, if not, we've done a bad job here. So trying to summarize that before we call it a day here, and as we approach the 1 hour mark, that's usually where we cut these interviews off. Let me try and summarize the 3 most important takeaways I got from this conversation when it comes to avoiding scope creep, miscommunication, and stuff like that. First of all, you want to have a solid onboarding process so that all the expectations are met and clearly defined in the very beginning. You need to over-communicate throughout the project. So whether that's a standing meeting every Friday to update your client on what has been done or something like that, whether that's using WP Feedback so that your client can see with its own eyes what has been done.
Well, we also have those auto reports that trigger. You can trigger them automatically once a week, so like that does the communication for you. But also, it's just like there's a lot of notifications, and that just makes sure that it seems like there's volume, there's abundance of work being done.
Yeah. Thanks for bringing this up. That's a very important time saver, actually. And then the third thing is that you need to keep your client in check on the demands that he or she is making. So as we talked about during the screen share, you need to visualize what type of work you have been doing and how much they have been asking for at some point. So that was very clear when you answered the questions Clayton had. Did I miss anything?
I add one more. Can I add one more? So I have to say fragmented systems. So like, we do that all the time. And I think that our industry is one of the worst at doing that. You start the process by sending an email, and then you send them to fill out a form and on a random page. Then they go back and they get a Word document that summarizes what was said on that form. And you ask them to upload the files to a Dropbox. Then you send a spreadsheet to list down all of the tasks that you're going to be doing and asking them to log in to a project.
I'm twitching.
Just it gets me tired just thinking about it. Oh, it's exhausting.
Exhausting. And all of that in the span of 6 weeks. That's the average project length. It's insane. Imagine your accountant do that to you, or your lawyer do that to you. Like, there's no way we would have let this happen. And that is the biggest cause for clients that steer you in their direction, because they're just fed up. Man, this guy just sent me a message on an email, and then he sent me an invite to this software. I'm just gonna WhatsApp him. I know how to do that, so I'll just stick to that. Like, choose one system and stick to it, whatever it may be. That's the best advice I can give.
Well, folks, that is our cue on that very wise note to wrap up. It does feel appropriate, however, just to give an honorable mention to a specific question that did come in during the show. Of which it was really hard not to laugh, because Vito was halfway through explaining something and I was trying not to laugh at that question. But
the answer is
yes. Right. So we now know your weakness.
I tested it. I cut my sometimes you gotta catch the edges, and I was in bed for a week.
Brilliant. Folks, we want to make you aware of a coupon that's available. If you are interested in having a look at WFeedback, then head on over to wfeedback.co, and there is a coupon that will give you 15% discount. Not 1, but 15. That's 15% discount. And a free Ferrari? Or just a 15% discount with
for
the
now,
code.
let's see.
For now, Cloudways Rocks is your coupon code if you want to use that. We will also make sure that we put that in the comments. Also, after this live stream, if you have any questions, be sure to continue to ask those questions in the comments, because I'm sure Vito will be back to have a look in the comments and connect with you. Also, be sure to join the Cloudways users Facebook group as well, because you're going to get updated as to when our upcoming live streams are. And most of our cool guests also hang out in there as well. So that's the Cloudways users Facebook group. Let's just remind you of the URL for WP Feedback, wfeedback.co. Vito, thank you so much
for having me, guys.
That's all right.
All of you.
It was amazing.
It's a pleasure to have you.
Before we go, let's give a shout out to our wonderful Mavericks. Let's start with the wonderful Peacher. How can people connect with you?
They can join my Facebook group, Design for Geeks. It's the best place to find me.
It's the best place to be. Jan, how can people connect with you?
My Facebook group, WP Mastery, or right now, the Ecom Services Summit group.
Highly recommended. There's some great network going on in there as well. I've been enjoying your content, mate. And then finally, there's me. You can join the Agency Trailblazer. Lots of Facebook groups, isn't there? Do you have one as well, mate? Agency Trailblazer community. Join that. Do you have a Facebook group, Vito? We might as well throw yours in.
It's a WP Feedback Pro community.
The WP Feedback Pro community. Actually, it's the whole community, isn't it? It's like a Facebook alternative.
Well, there is that as well. But
Yes.
Just so you can go one better. I get it. No worries. Right. Thank you, everyone. Everyone's awesome. Let's do the cheesy wave, and I will end the broadcast.
Cheesy wave.
It's a wave time. Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye. Love you. Goodbye. I will press end. Bye.